On most residential projects, there are obviously two types. One would be a custom home from the ground up, and the other would be a remodel or an addition. Now, there are some subheadings with respect to remodels and additions, and a unique cutoff point there, which we've talked about in the past, but I think it's important to go over again, would be about 500 square feet. And in some areas it's a little bit different, but 500 square feet is typically where a fee kicks in related to schools, and the term we use are school fees. It's a developer fee that applies to each project. But if you want to add on to your home, let's say you want to do a bedroom and a bathroom or a small master suite, if you can keep it below that 500 square feet, then that school fee does not apply, which is if we're designing something close to that, we always take a really close look at it. Now that fee is structured based on the dollars that the school districts collect. So you have to be very careful. Sometimes there are two school districts that want to collect fees based on your development. So there may be a grade school, and then there may be a high school associated with it. So those fee structures, I've seen them in a range of maybe $2, $2.50 a square foot. Ooh, I said square feet, I meant square foot. $2.50 a square foot up to possibly $5.50 a square foot. Now, I'll get back to the basic different departments and requirements for permitting, but to start with, the school fees are based on square foot, so the larger the square footage, the larger the fees. So let's just take an example of 1,000 square feet in an area where the school fees are $5. That would be a $5,000 fee directly applied to your project. The good thing about that is it's a one-time fee, a development fee, and it does not repeat year after year. It's important to know that. So it's factored in, needs to be factored into your budget, but it also, over time, the impact is less and less. Same thing applies to a larger home, residential, but those fees do go up. So you want to make sure you keep a line item in there for your school fees. Now, in the entitlement process on a residential project, let's say a small addition or medium-sized addition, there are the departments that we need to check with at the city. Most of them are all located in the city. The first one would be the planning department. Then from there we would check with the engineering department and the building department and also the fire department. Now it's very interesting because every city and every county has their own process for this. So, and we do help you with that, and actually in some areas, particularly in what comes to mind, San Diego, there are so many different departments you have to check through. There are actually people that provide what we call entitlement services, okay? These services are technically outside of the outside of the architect's service. But on smaller projects, we quite often will do that, but it's identified as entitlement fees. Now, if the project gets more complicated, turns into a commercial project, then we would probably recommend that you get a entitlement person to run the plans and specifications and requirements through those departments. I've seen as many as 50 different departments on some commercial jobs. But let's get back to the residential here for a minute. I'm going to give you an example of Rancho Cucamonga because we are in Rancho and we do a lot of projects there. A project like this, we would develop the preliminary concepts, which I think you saw earlier. You can take pictures of this and show it to them, right? So we would develop concept like that, and then early on in the project, actually in the first phase of the project, we would take this in and review it with the planning department. As a client, you're welcome to come with us so you can hear their specific requirements and requests. Once we have a general understanding and agreement with the planning department, we will then share that information with the other departments, and it will give us enough information to get an idea of any special fees that might be associated with your project and any special requirements or restrictions. What comes to mind is in the engineering department, there are some properties in this area that maybe are on a street where part of it's improved and part of it's not. So as part of your development, and there's different requirements that kick in at different levels, but as part of your development, you might have to put in a curb and gutter. Upland, for example, is like that. There's a number of streets where the curb and gutter has been put in on some of the homes, but not all of them. There's also areas in Rancho Cucamonga where, and you've probably seen it, if you drive down a street and you notice the road gets narrow and then it gets wide again, and you're going, well, what's that about? Well, the reason for that is the person that owns the property on that property where it's kind of like sticking out. I can think of an area where it sticks out so far on, what is it? I forgot the name of it. But anyway, there's a couple, well, there's one on Archibald. It sticks out so far that there's no sidewalk. It kind of comes up, stops. You actually have to go in the street to go around that property, and then you get back on the horse trail. The reason for that is that the people that own that property, their property line is actually right where the street is. But the problem is if they do any improvements on that property, they actually have to dedicate a portion of that and may even have to put in the curbs and gutters to improve that. So be very careful of your particular circumstances of your property. These are the things that we surface very early when we talk to the planning department. Some other things along those lines, that's a road dedication requirement. There may be easements for drainage, there may be easements for utilities that will further restrict where you can build on your property, but we go over that in detail, so we make sure that's all kind of taken care of before we get into the construction document phase.